make things. We use our hands, minds, and machines to build, to fix, to improve. We're known as do-it-yourselfers, home improvement fans, fix-it fanatics, inventors. At our core, though, we're all makers. So let's jump in and make something. Hi, I'm Ron Hazelton. Welcome to the show. What do you get when you combine a big screen TV, surround sound, and state-of-the-art electronics? Why, a home theater, of course. On today's show, a good friend of mine and an expert on the subject helps turn our family room into entertainment central. Then it's also time to have fun outdoors. And this year, I'm determined not to let the mosquitoes spoil any of the good times. I plan to get rid of them, plain and simple. You know, except for the kitchen, this is the room where the wife and kids and I spend most of our time. It is our family room. And like most families, we watch a lot of TV, maybe sometimes a little bit too much. Nevertheless, we've decided that we want to create a home theater in this room. Now, this won't be a dedicated home theater. We still want the room to be a place where the kids can play and we can have conversations with our friends. So the trick will be to combine the best state-of-the-art home theater technology while keeping this a functioning family room. I first met Sean Catrufo when he brought a mammoth saw blade to our home and asked me to autograph it as part of a fundraiser he was planning. After the photo op was over, I discovered that Sean was an expert in designing and installing home theaters. He offered to put one in for me, and I accepted. Our first task was to pick out the equipment and bring it home. This is sort of a home theater in a box, or I guess boxes, right?
It's everything you need except for the cabling. Have you decided where you're going to put the TV?
Pretty much right here, where this picture is. I mean, considering the room here, do you think this is a decent location?
I think it's the best location in this room.
So what's the first thing you got to do?
First thing we got to do is we have to mount the TV.
Until now, this wall has displayed one of my favorite paintings by California artist Howard Late. As soon as I've taken it down, Sean goes to work cutting two holes, one for the television cables and the other for an electrical receptacle that will provide power to the TV. In all, there will be 6 separate pieces of equipment in our home theater system, and that could mean 6 individual remote controls. Fortunately, that won't be the case, because Sean is setting us up with this universal remote that will replace all the others. The universal remote control will communicate with a master sensor that receives and relays signals not only to the TV, but all the other electronic components as well.
Now, I need you to hold the remote like you normally would.
I'd probably hold it something like this.
Because of that, I would probably go with under the TV set.
All right. So this is kind of important. Before you decide where to put that sensor, you need to sit down like I'm doing right now and figure out what your normal holding position is.
Correct.
With the position settled, Sean cuts the final hole. Down in the basement, he next bores holes in the bottom of the wall. Then his assistant, Brian, pushes what's known as a fish tape up inside. Once the tape is visible, it's pulled through the opening.
That's great.
Next, cord is attached to the end of the tape and pulled back into the basement. Then, wires for the TV, electrical outlet, and sensor are tied to the string, and it, in turn, is used to pull the wires inside the wall and up into the family room. All right, here it comes. Next, Sean pushes the electrical wires through the back of a box, sets the box in the wall, attaches the wires to a receptacle, mounts the outlet in place, and puts on the cover plate. Sean and Brian begin by mounting a plywood spacer on the wall, screwing it directly into the wall studs. Next comes the television mounting plate. To bear the weight of the TV, it too is secured to the wall studs, but with larger, heavy-duty lag screws driven in with a socket wrench. Mounting brackets are also attached to the back of the television. To hang the TV, Sean and Brian first set it on a table so the power cord and cables can be attached. The set is heavy, nearly 100 pounds, so lifting it into position is definitely a two-person job. The brackets on the back of the television hook over the mounting plate on the wall, transferring the TV's weight directly to the wall studs. Once in place, the hanging system can be locked so the set can't be accidentally knocked loose. Next, Sean installs the box that will house the sensor for the remote control. Can't wait to see a picture on here.
And you're going to love it. Not only is home theater a great picture, but it's also a great sound system. And here's your speakers.
Now, wow, is this what people refer to as surround sound?
Yes, it is. These 3 speakers are going to go on the front wall. These 2 rear speakers are going to go on the rear wall. And this subwoofer will be hidden behind the sofa where you can't see it.
Okay.
The height of a speaker can make a difference in the sound. You want it to be between the ear standing and the ear sitting, somewhere in that general area. That would place it about here or here on this shelf. But unfortunately we have kids in the house and they could pull the speaker off the wall, and that would be dangerous. You might want to consider here. And as long as we have a speaker bracket that can tilt it down, it'll make up for that height difference.
So you can take them high but point them downward?
Correct.
I definitely think I want them out of reach.
Great.
Now, let me ask you something. Is it necessary to have the speakers at the same height all the way around the room?
Well, not only should they be the same height, but they should be the same speaker and they should be the same amount of power all the way around the room.
To mount the speakers, a 1/2-inch hole is drilled. Then a fish tape is inserted into the wall cavity and fed into the basement. The speaker wire is attached and pulled up into the room above. Next, the mounting bracket is screwed to the wall. The wires are connected. The speaker is fastened to the bracket and aimed toward the seating area. This is 5.1 surround sound. That means there will be 5 wall speakers, 3 across the front and 2 in the rear. The .1 is a 6th speaker for low-frequency effects, like the boom of an explosion. Called a subwoofer, it will sit on the floor. To install it, Sean first drills a hole. The wiring is then passed down into the basement. The circuitry in the subwoofer controls the timing of the sound signals to all the wall speakers. In short, that means a whole lot of wires. Now it's time to gather up the wires from the television, wall speakers, and subwoofer, and bring them into the equipment cabinet. Right now, all that wiring is in the basement, ready to come upstairs. Okay, push. Okay, got it. Now, I'm pretty adventurous as a do-it-yourselfer, but one look at this electronic spaghetti has made me very glad I've let a pro tackle this job. With everything hooked up, it's time to do some programming. First, Sean measures the distance from each speaker to the primary seating area.
That's 15 feet.
Then he enters this data into the on-screen setup program. The system will use this information to automatically adjust each speaker's volume to produce a true surround sound effect.
Well, Ron, you're all set, and here's the new remote.
Wow, the Commander.
That's pretty nice, huh? I also got you something else. A little starter kit, popcorn, candy, and some movies to get you going.
Oh, thank you, Sean. This is
you're
very
welcome.
nice of you. And yeah, I want you to know that I really appreciate the installation. It was top-notch. But I also want to thank you for making me smarter about home theater.
It's no problem, Ron, and if there's anything I can do for you, if you have any problems, just call me on the phone, and I'll talk you through it. And if I can't, I'll come right on over. Yep.
24/7?
For you, 24/7.
Now that's what I call service. Is it a family room or is it a home theater? For us, it's both. Yes, sir, we've gotten exactly what we wanted. Danny, who is that up there? Trying to get with the screen. A good rental center will stock professional-grade tools, which means you'll get the job done more easily and have better results. When should you rent versus buy? Well, if you're going to refinish your wood floors, jackhammer some concrete, or set a dozen posts for your new fence, you probably want to consider renting those tools. It's going to be a while before you'll need them again. They're expensive to purchase, and then you've got the problem of storing them. On the other hand, if you're going to bore a few holes, cut some wood, or tile your 2 bathrooms and kitchen, you might want to consider purchasing a tool. My rule is the more general use the tool is, and the more times I think I'm going to use it, the stronger the case for a purchase. Now, not all tool setters are created equal, so be sure and choose one whose tools are clean and in good repair. And if you haven't operated the tool or machinery you're about to rent, ask for some hands-on instructions. These guys know their tools, right? Finally, make sure you pick up the supplies or accessories that you'll need. Gotta go, wife's waiting for this. Warmer weather brings out the best in Mother Nature, but it also ushers in something that evokes not oohs and ahs, but ouches. Yep, we're talking about mosquitoes. In the past, I, like my young friends here, have tackled this problem with plenty of mosquito repellent. But this season I'm going to take a different approach. I plan to eliminate them completely. That's right, I just won't have any. I'll show you how I plan to do this, but first, a few interesting and useful facts about mosquitoes. Only the female mosquitoes bite. They can lay hundreds of eggs in a few tablespoons of water. Mosquitoes are attracted to carbon dioxide and the odors that emanate from our skin. Some of us smell better to mosquitoes than others. Mosquitoes typically fly into the wind in search of a human meal. Ouch! Armed with this information and more, scientists at American Biophysics Corporation came up with a way for homeowners, like me, to rid ourselves of these pests. Simply put, this device does a better job of attracting mosquitoes than we do. This device, aptly named the Mosquito Magnet, connects to a standard tank of propane. When the unit is turned on, the propane gas is burned in a flameless catalytic converter, producing carbon dioxide. Yep, the same CO2 we generate. An internal fan, powered in this case by a solar battery, exhausts the carbon dioxide through this nozzle. The CO2, which is heavier than air, hugs the ground and travels downwind where blood-hungry female mosquitoes pick up the scent. They follow the plume back to the unit and are sucked inside where they're trapped and starved to death. Every few days, I'll simply open the unit and empty out the collection bag. To make itself even more irresistible, the mosquito magnet uses an attractant that's expelled along with the carbon dioxide. This combination of CO2 and scent is just too much for any bloodthirsty lady mosquito to resist. A single device can cover up to 1.5 acres. The unit should be placed upwind so it can attract biting insects away from the areas where people gather. The good news is mosquitoes don't migrate, so all I've got to do is to get rid of those that are in my yard. And that'll take about 4 weeks. But I'm going to keep this running throughout the summer, just in case any neighboring mosquitoes decide to blow in. And if they do, they'll be more attracted to this magnet than this one. Now, some say you can never have too many clamps, and I guess if you look around my shop, you'd say I'm living proof of that. But despite the fact that I've got dozens of these, sometimes I still don't have just the right one. That's when it's time to do some creative clamping. Now, here's a good example. Let's say I have a piece of loose veneer right in the center of a panel like this. Now, even these clamps won't come close to reaching that point. So here's a solution. I take a small block of wood, place it right on the loose veneer. On top of that, I put a strip of wood that's long enough to reach to the edge of the panels. Then I drop one clamp over here, and a second over here. And as I tighten this up, I'm applying pressure exactly where I want it. Example 2. Let's say that I want to clamp these two boards together, but the biggest clamp I've got is not long enough to reach across them. Well, here's the solution. Take the first clamp, lay it on the board, take a second clamp, and interlock it with the first. Now, what I've done is turn 2 short clamps into one longer one. Now, sometimes one of the most challenging clamping jobs is holding something vertical while you work on it. Well, here's one thing that works pretty well. Take a sliding C-clamp like this and clamp it near the bottom on both ends. Then clamp the clamps to the tabletop or workbench. Now, both my hands are free, so I can go ahead and work. Did you know you can create a clamp from just about any board by cutting it on the diagonal and screwing it down to a base? Now, here's how it works. Let's say I want to clamp this board. I slide this piece in, give it a tap on this end. This is held securely in place. If I want to take it out, just tap on this end. Now, if you don't have all these clamps, or even if you do, sometimes you've got to get creative with your clamping.
To view today's projects again, visit ronhazelton.com. Step-by-step home improvement tips when you need them.